The gold to silver ratio is sitting at a 6,000 year anomaly. For millennia, the gold to silver ratio hovered between 8 to 1, and that was in ancient Rome, and 15 to 1 during the US Coinage Act of 1792. Today, it sits at 90 to 1, meaning 1 ounce of gold buys 90 ounces of silver. This divergence defies both historical precedent and geological reality. Silver is mined at just 8 to 1 relative to gold globally, yet trades as if it were 11 times less scarce. Eric Sprott argues this imbalance is unsustainable, noting that a reversion to the 15 to 1 ratio last seen during the Roman Empire would send silver to $200 an ounce if gold holds at $3,000. This isn't theoretical. During the 2011 bull market, silver surged to $49.51 while gold peaked at $1,900 an ounce. That's a ratio of 38 to 1. To reclaim even this modest relationship today, silver would need to hit $78 an ounce.
Connection established.
Welcome back, and thank you for tuning into your daily silver video. We have a very interesting article that we're going to be breaking down today. It's from the Silver Academy, and it's Eric Sprott talking about silver's going to skyrocket, be positioned before the crowd realizes it. Now, I'm not trying to sit here and just say that silver's about to skyrocket, folks. It could, and it very much likely will, but that's not the reason we invest into precious metals. It is wealth preservation. As the dollar is losing its value and purchasing power, you put your money in something with intrinsic value. It holds itself. It's like putting your money in a time capsule as the dollar is burning away in your bank account. But that's not to say that silver does have a lot going for it when you're looking at an asset with potential, whether it's industrial demand, whether it's the silver shortage, whether it's price manipulation, whether it's anything, the geopolitical factors. There's a lot going for silver right here, and that's kind of what Eric Sprott's talking about in this article, a perfect storm. There's just so much that silver has that's going for it, where most investments or most assets only have one or two things. Silver, whether it's monetarily or industrially, is going to be beneficial, where gold only benefits from the monetary aspect. But regardless of what the dollar does or supply deficits, which are hundreds of millions of ounces in the red, both of those are beneficial to silver. So regardless of what happens, silver will come out on top to some extent. And this is something that people are continuing to overlook, in my opinion. Mainstream media still isn't caught on. They just look at silver's price right now and say, okay, silver's still sitting at 30 something dollars, whatever. They're not looking forwards. And when you're investing into something, you're investing into it. You're looking forwards. You're invested into where that asset is going. And nothing else makes as much sense as silver. And that's just a fact, right? I could sit here and tell you 30 reasons why silver has potential to rise in value over the next 5 to 10 years. And I can tell you 30 reasons why stock markets won't rise in value over the next 5 to 10 years, right? Just realistically looking, silver on paper makes the most sense. Not saying that will happen, because there is a lot, like right here even says silver situation is complex, but prices could hit $40 by summer, $50 by year's end. Who knows? And I don't want to throw out forecasts or price predictions, because then people have this unrealistic expectation or this false hope or whatever, and expectations or resentments waiting to happen. I've always gone by that. Don't get into it for that reason, folks. Yes, that'd be nice, but there's more to this than just getting rich quick. So let's dive into this article. Make sure you subscribe if you like videos like this, or if you want a channel that posts daily silver content. There's a lot that I'll be posting on this channel, from podcasts, getting Andy Sheckman back on, to silver giveaways, to live streams, to whatever. And a lot of times I have to cover politics or geopolitics, because that also affects the price of silver. So it's kind of like a news channel as well to some extent. So anyways, let's check this out. Eric Sprott, silver to skyrocket, be positioned before the crowd realizes it. And I say, and when people talk about silver skyrocket, I try I don't want to be a silver pumping channel. I don't want to sit here and scream at you saying buy silver because it's about to explode tomorrow. So then you're spending your full paycheck with this hope. That's gambling, right? That's gambling. I don't want you to gamble. That's something that I feel a lot of people that have a platform are they're irresponsible in doing, right? That's very irresponsible. I'm not saying silver's going to hit $100 next week, not next month, not next year. I'm not saying that. And honestly, I don't want it to, because I don't want the price to skyrocket now. I want it to be cheap for several more years so I can accumulate more of it. Especially since I'm only 32 years old. Why would I want silver to do something astronomical anytime soon? I would rather it in 10, 20, 30 years from now. I mean, why would I want that now? Anyways, that's just my perspective on the matter. Even if it didn't have this potential to do what people are claiming, I would still be investing into it simply because it's the only thing that can preserve your wealth as the dollar's deflating. So anyways, I really want to get that across because there are a lot of silver pumping channels out there, and I just want you guys to be level-headed about it. Don't have this crazy hope that silver is going to do something that it might not. Get what I'm saying? So anyway, and not saying that these people that claim this are wrong or bad or anything. No, that's just their thoughts. But for me personally, I don't want you guys just thinking for sure that silver is about to do something insane, because there is manipulation behind the scenes. Now, some can claim, like Ted Butler, that the manipulation will come to an end, given, COMEX corruption and all of that, with all, all this silver, this paper silver not matching up to the physical silver. And if everyone tried to turn in those contracts to physical delivery, it would expose the corruption and silver's price would, navigate to more fair levels, which would be a lot higher. We could go that route, and I can explain why, if that happens, silver would take off astronomically, but it's very complex. It's very, very complex. Keep watching my videos if you want to understand the complexity of it, or how deep this rabbit hole goes. But the silver rabbit hole goes very deep, especially when you incorporate the military industrial complex and the military's, involvement in silver price manipulation, since silver's used so much in military. And if you want proof of that, go to silverwars.org, and it shows a timeline of all of this when the military stopped reporting how much silver they have, and it's a very, very complicated matter. I've tried to go at this with all angles, but yeah, don't do your own research, do your own homework. But if you're gonna do your homework, make sure you get the answers right. It's kind of important. So anyways, first chapter, gold. I like how I give some context, and sorry for rambling, folks. I really want people to be educated, because I do watch a lot of videos out there where I'm just like, man, I wish they would have said that differently, or at least gave some context of why they're saying that, or proof of where that came from that they're saying. So yeah, gold has been on a historic rally over the past year, hitting 50 all-time highs in the last 12 months. A feat not seen in over a decade. This surge is reminiscent of the late 1970s, when gold experienced its most dramatic rise in history amid economic instability and geopolitical turmoil. Today, these factors driving gold's ascent are multifaceted, stemming from inflationary pressures, fiscal challenges in the United States, heightened geopolitical risks, and record levels of physical gold buying. Taken together, these elements have created an environment where gold has rarely been more attractive as a safe haven asset. And do you guys invest into gold, by the way? Let me know in the comment section below. And why, if you do, and why. One of the primary drivers behind gold's rally has been inflation. Although inflation rates have moderated somewhat since their post-pandemic peaks, core inflation in the United States remains stubbornly elevated. Persistent price increases across key sectors continue to erode purchasing power and undermine confidence in fiat currencies. Historically, gold has served as a hedge against inflation, offering investors a store of value when traditional assets like bonds or equities lose their appeal. Compounding this issue is the U.S. fiscal situation, with the deficit spending reaching $1.8 trillion annually and total debt nearing $37 trillion. And by the way, folks, if you guys want to check out more on the United States debt, go check out the video I posted 2 days ago. I go over usdebtclock.org, and I just dive deep into those statistics and the spending and how that affects the price as well. So the growing debt burden raises concerns about fiscal sustainability and the long-term viability of the dollar as the world's reserve currency. For investors wary of these risks, gold provides an alternative that is free from counterparty risk and immune to monetary policy mismanagement. Geopolitical tensions have also played a significant role in funneling capital into gold markets and silver. The ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine continues to destabilize Eastern Europe, while unrest in the Middle East adds further uncertainty to global energy supplies and trade routes. These conflicts have kept the geopolitical risk index at historically elevated levels since 2022, reflecting widespread investor unease about global stability. Trade disputes between major economies such as the United States and China have only added to this uncertainty, creating an environment where safe haven assets like gold thrive. Central banks have been another critical factor in supporting gold prices. Over the past year, central banks worldwide have ramped up their purchases of physical gold to diversify reserves and reduce exposure to volatile currencies. In 2023 alone, central banks bought over 1,200 metric tons of gold, the highest level on record. And this trend shows no sign of slowing down. As geopolitical risks persist and concerns about currency devaluation grow, central banks are likely to continue increasing their allocations to gold, providing sustained demand for the metal. Adding further complexity to this backdrop is the looming debt ceiling crisis in the United States. The debt ceiling has acted as a cap on federal borrowing for years, but with total debt approaching $37 trillion, policymakers face difficult decisions about whether to raise or suspend it once again. A failure to address this issue could lead to government shutdowns or disruptions in financial markets, further driving investors towards safe haven assets like gold. While gold's performance over the past year has been extraordinary, it is important to consider the potential risks that could temper its rally. A resolution to major geopolitical conflicts or trade disputes could reduce demand for safe haven assets if market conditions stabilize. Similarly, fiscal tightening or policy shifts aimed at addressing inflation could restore confidence in traditional investments like equities or bonds. Additionally, after such a rapid rise in prices, some analysts warn that short-term corrections or periods of consolidation may be inevitable, which is actually not a bad thing. You know, you don't want something to just go straight up. If it goes up, 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 it's going to go down, down, down. You want it to gradually approach so prices can stabilize at these higher levels. For investors seeking stability amid growing volatility and uncertainty, gold remains an attractive option. Its historical role as a hedge against inflation and geopolitical risk make it particularly appealing during periods of economic instability. However, it is equally important for investors to approach gold with a balanced perspective. While it can serve as a valuable component of a diversified portfolio, relying solely on gold as an investment strategy may expose investors to risks associated with price volatility or changing market dynamics. And remember, folks, he's saying all this good about gold, but the article is about silver. Remember that. And that's why silver has so much potential, because you could read this whole thing and it gives you a million and one reasons why gold is a great option. But this article is talking about silver skyrocketing, not gold. But gold is still great. It still has its place. I mean, you could fit $100,000 of gold in your hands. You can't do that with silver. So for big investors, gold is much easier storage-wise. So in conclusion, gold's recent rally reflects broader concerns about inflationary pressures, fiscal irresponsibility, geopolitical instability, and central bank policy shifts. These factors have created one of the most favorable environments for gold in decades. However, critical thinkers should remain vigilant about potential risks while recognizing that gold's appeal as a safe haven asset is deeply rooted in its ability to weather periods of uncertainty and market turbulence. As global economic conditions evolve, gold's role as both an investment vehicle and a barometer of market sentiment will remain central to financial decision-making strategies worldwide. Now, this is a tweet from The CEO, I don't know if this is Eric Sprott saying this, but this is the tweet. Silver's trading at $34.40 today, but Eric Sprott says it's wildly mispriced. Gold is worth 90 times more than silver, yet silver's mined at an 8-to-1 ratio. When both metals were used as currency, the ratio was 15-to-1, and Sprott says he has no doubt silver is headed back there. At $3,000 gold, silver should go to $200, a 481% gain from the current price. Is the market sleeping on silver, or is this the trade of the decade? I definitely think that silver is extremely, and I know it's actually for a fact, that silver is extremely undervalued and mispriced, and we can give facts on that. The whole question, I guess, is when will this mispricing start to be priced correctly? When will silver's true value start to shine? Silver is going to go ballistic soon, to the moon. Silver's current price of $34.40 per ounce represents what veteran investor Eric Sprott calls a historic mispricing. But this is a calculated mispricing as well. In the precious metals market, and while gold continues to dominate headlines with its record highs, silver's fundamentals and its glaring asymmetry to gold suggests it may be the most undervalued asset in global markets today. And it is. Kind of, a lot of the points what I mentioned before. Here's why the case for silver has never been stronger. And I like how he goes over all these. I covered this in the introduction. But, the earliest gold to silver ratio I've seen is 2.5-to-1. It's 2.5 parts silver equals 1 part gold. But it's hovered between 8-to-1 for millennia. 8-to-1 to 16-to-1 for thousands of years. And that's what it comes out of the ground. Biblical times, I'm talking like way before that, it was 2.5-to-1, 2.5 parts silver equals 1 part gold, and that was back when they looked at silver as more of like a magical metal because it can purify water, it has antimicrobial properties, so it was very useful, and it is today. It's much more useful than gold. So why is it 90 times, why is it 90 times less valuable? It doesn't make sense. Something's off here, especially even if you're just going off the ratio it comes out of the Earth's crust. And if you want the exact time of when this ratio got, basically devalued, was when FDR got in office, 1930, changed the gold to silver ratio from 16-to-1 to 75-to-1 basically overnight. So we already went over some of these points. It's $200 an ounce gold holds at $3,000. This isn't theoretical, but during the 2011 bull market, when silver hit $50, it surged to $49.51, and that was obviously stemming from the 2008 credit financial crisis. Billions of dollars in stimulus, recession/depression leads to that. So here's supply and demand dynamics, a perfect storm. Industrial demand. Silver is indispensable to the energy transition, with 60% of demand now tied to industrial uses like solar panels. 100 million ounces a year. EVs, military, and aerospace, AI, chips, 5G infrastructure. We are experiencing record industrial demand in 2025, driven by China's solar expansion and AI data center growth. New photovoltaic technologies now use 20% more silver per panel, while AI servers require silver-heavy semiconductor components, right? You're going to see these AI chips booming, and now the solar panels actually use twice as much because they put panels on the back side of the solar panel, since places like deserts, it reflects off the sand, so they can conduct more energy with panels on the back side as well. So, and that's that's a common theme that I'm seeing, is as these gadgets become more useful, or as they learn how to make them better, it's going to require more silver. But they're not worried about the amount of silver they're using. They're worried about making these technologies more beneficial, more essential. So it just uses more silver, as silver is the most highly conductive metal. So the silver market's been in a supply deficit for 5 consecutive years, with 2025 shortfall expected to exceed 150 million ounces in the red. And we're talking about 800 million ounces in the red the last 4 or 5 years alone. That's as much as 1 year's production entirely. and the numbers are only going to get worse. We're talking about record-breaking supply deficits. Imagine in like 5 to 10 years what that would do to the price. Mine production remains stagnant as 80% of silver is extracted as a byproduct of copper, zinc, and lead mining. It's found by accident. It's a byproduct. Recycling rates are negligible. That's what I was saying. You could try to recycle, but that's not going to do anything to a deficit of 150 million ounces each year. Easy. With silver demand only expected to rise as we advance digitally. Then you have investment demand was actually the highest this year since COVID. While gold attracts central bank ETFs, silver ownership is highly concentrated among retail investors and contrarians like Sprott. This asymmetry means even margin capital shifts could ignite parabolic moves. Consider this: a 1% reallocation from 12 tons of gold or this market to silver would inject $120 billion, equivalent to 3 years of global silver production. Physical silver inventories at exchanges like the COMEX have plunged 40% since 2020, with registered stocks covering at just 17 days of global demand. So you have catalysts for breakout monetary policy, tariffs and trade wars, geopolitical hedging. It's an industrial metal and a monetary metal. Unlike gold, its price reflects not just fear, also growth. And that's what I was talking about before. Gold only benefits monetarily, while silver has this whole other thing going for it. So that's kind of what I was mentioning. So just remember this, folks. Remember, silver has a lot going for it. Nothing else makes as much sense as silver. You can't find another asset and write all this and give all these points and all this data and these deficits, and nothing else compares. Not even close. And the perfect storm is coming. It's not here yet, but it is coming, especially looking at the supply deficit numbers and how much silver we'll need in 5-10 years and how we don't have enough of it. We're scraping by right now, but what happens when we can't scrape by anymore? Think about that. Anyways, folks, I'm going to wrap this video up here. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for sticking through. If you're still listening, you watched through the whole video, you didn't click off thinking you know it all, you wanted to soak up all information. That speaks a lot about your character, and I'm sure that will pay off just someone who wants to, that's open-minded, that wants to know everything. So thank you so much. Please subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'll be posting daily. Check out my past videos as well. Thanks for tuning in. This was Silver Slayer. I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.